Hello students, I am Sanjana Kavatagi, Assistant Professor, Department of CSE, AITM Belgavi. Let us continue with the video lectures on storage area networks. In this video, let us see the last part of module number 1, that is intelligent storage systems. Business critical applications require high levels of performance, availability, security, and scalability. A disk drive is a core element of storage that governs the performance of any storage system. Some of the older disk array technologies could not overcome the performance constraints due to limitations of disk drives and their mechanical components. RAID technology made an important contribution to enhancing the storage performance and reliability, but disk drives, even with a RAID implementation, could not meet the performance requirements of today's applications. So, with the advancement in technology, a new breed of storage solutions known as intelligent storage systems have been evolved. These intelligent storage systems are feature-rich RAID arrays that provide highly optimized I/O processing capabilities. These storage systems are configured with a large amount of memory, that is called as cache, and multiple I/O paths, and use sophisticated algorithms to meet the requirements of performance sensitive applications. These arrays have an operating environment that intelligently and optimally handles the management, allocation, and utilization of storage resources. Support for flash drives and other modern day technologies such as virtual storage provisioning and automated storage tiering has added a new dimension to storage system performance, scalability, and availability. So we shall cover the components of intelligent storage system along with some storage provisioning to these applications. Now let us study the components of an intelligent storage system. An intelligent storage system consists of four key components, that is front end, cache, back end, and physical disk. You can see it in the figure. This figure illustrates all these components and their interconnections. Okay, we have a host here and then we have the intelligent storage system. These two are connected through storage networks. Okay, coming to intelligent storage system, there is a front end, cache, backend, and physical disk. These are the four main components of the intelligent storage system. In the front end, you can see there are some ports through which the host is connected, and then there is a front end controller. In between front end and back end, there is a cache memory. Okay, again same like front end. In the back end, we have back end controllers, and then there are ports to which the physical disk is connected. Now let us understand this. So an IO request that is received from the host at the front end port is processed through the cache and backend to enable the storage retrieval of data from the physical disk. A read request can be serviced directly from the cache if the requested data is already found in the cache. In modern intelligent storage systems, from front end, cache and backend are typically integrated on a single board that is referred to as storage processor or storage controller. Now let us see these components in detail one by one. The first component is front end. The front end provides the interface between the storage system and the host. It consists of two components, front end ports and the front end controllers. Typically, a front end has redundant controllers for high availability, and each controller contains multiple ports that enable large number of hosts to connect to the intelligent storage system. So each front end controller has processing logic that executes the appropriate transport protocol such as fiber channel, ISCSI, FICON, FICON, or FCOE for storage connections. The front end controllers route data to and from the cache via the internal data bus. So when the cache receives the right data, the controller sends an acknowledgement message back to the host. So when a cache receives the right data, the controller sends an acknowledgement message back to the host. The next and most important component is cache. Cache is a semiconductor memory where the data is placed temporarily to reduce the time required to service IO request from the host. Cache can improve the storage system performance by isolating host from the mechanical delays associated with rotating disks or hard disk drives, that is HDD. These rotating disks are the slowest components of an intelligent storage system. Data access on rotating disk usually takes several milliseconds because of seek time and the rotational latency. Accessing the data from cache is fast and typically it takes less than a millisecond. On intelligent arrays, write data is first placed in cache and then it is returned to the disk. Let us understand the structure of cache. Cache is organized into pages, which is the smallest unit of cache location. The size of the cache page is configured according to the application IO size. Cache consists of the data store and a tag RAM. The data store holds the data, whereas tag RAM tracks the location of the data in the data store. You can see it in the figure. We have the disk here and cache, which is divided into pages or which is organized into pages. The page is identified here. So we have the data store and the tag RAM. So this tag RAM, what it does, it tracks the location of the data in the data store. With the help of this diagram, I can identify the data in the data store. Okay. So the entries in the tag RAM indicate where the data is found in cache and where the data belongs on the disk. So tag RAM includes a dirty bit flag, which indicates whether the data in cache has been committed to the disk. That means whether that data in the cache is saved onto the disk or no. That is identified using the dirty bit. It also contains time-based information such as time of last access, which is used to identify cached information that has not been accessed for a long period or may be freed up. So this is about the structure of the cache and what the components it contains. Now let us understand the read operation with cache. When a host issues a read request, the storage controller reads the tag RAM to determine whether the required data is available in the cache. If the requested data is found in the cache, it is called a read cache hit or read hit, and the data is sent directly to the host without any performance of the disk operation. You can see in the figure, this provides a fast response time to the host, almost about just a millisecond. If the requested data is not found in the cache, it is called a cache miss, and the data must be read from the disk. It is shown in the figure B. The backend accesses the appropriate disk and retrieves the required data. So data is then placed in cache and finally sent to the host through the front end. So cache misses increase the IO response time. So in the first figure they have given a read hit, in the second it is given read miss. In case of read hit, what happens whenever a read request is sent from the host, it will be first checked in the cache and the data will be available in the cache, and then the data is sent back to the host without any performance of the disk. We are not going to use the disk here, so that is called cache hit. Coming to or read hit, coming to cache miss or read miss, the data is requested from the host or read request is sent from the host. First it will be checked in the cache if it is not available, and then the read request is forwarded to the physical disk. Okay, and then disk operation will be performed over there, and then the data whatever is to be read will be sent from the disk, okay, through cache. It will be one copy of that data will be saved into the cache, and then that data will be sent back to the host. Okay, so a prefetch or read ahead algorithm is used when a read requests are sequential. the sequential read request, a contiguous set of associated blocks will be retrieved. Several other blocks that have not yet been requested by the host can be read from the disk and placed into the cache in advance. So when the host subsequently requests these blocks, these read operations will be always a read hit, because we are keeping a copy of that data into the cache. So whenever again next time that data same data is requested, it will be a read hit or cache hit. Let's see the write operation with cache. Write operations with cache provides performance advantages over writing directly into disk. So when an IO is written to cache and acknowledged, it is completed in far less time from the host perspective than it would take to write directly into the disk. Sequential writes also offer opportunities for optimization, because many smaller writes can be collapsed for larger transfers to disk drives with the use of the cache. So the write operations with cache can be implemented in the following ways. First one is write back cache. Data is placed in cache and an acknowledgement is sent to the host immediately. Later, the data from the several writes are committed to the disk. That means they are going to be saved onto the disk. So write response times are much faster because the write operations are isolated from the mechanical delays of the disk. However, uncommitted data is at risk of loss if cache failures occurs. So commit is nothing but saving it into the disk here. So once it is saved in the disk, even if the cache gets failed, the data is going to be safe. So in case of uncommitted data, that data will be at risk of loss if the cache failure occurs, because that data is not saved in the disk. Next one is write through cache. Data is placed in the cache and immediately written to the disk, and an acknowledgement is sent to the host. Because data is committed to the disk as it arrives, the risk of data loss are very less here, but the write response time will be longer because of the disk operations. Cache can be bypassed under certain conditions, such as larger size writing of the IO. But in this implementation, if the size of an IO request exceeds the predefined size, that is called as write aside size, writes are sent to the disk directly to reduce the impact of large writes consuming a large cache space. Next concept is about cache implementation. Cache can be implemented as either dedicated cache or a global cache. With dedicated cache, separate sets of memory locations are reserved for reads and writes. In global cache, both reads and writes can use any of the available memory addresses. Cache management is more efficient in a global cache implementation because only one global set of addresses has to be managed. Global cache also allows users to specify the percentages of cache available for reads and writes for cache management. Typically, the read cache will be small, but it should be increased if the application being used is a read intensive. In other global cache implementations, the ratio of cache available for reads versus writes is dynamically adjusted based on the workloads. Let us understand cache management. Cache is a finite and expensive resource that needs proper management. Even though modern intelligent storage systems come with a larger amount of cache, when all the cache pages are filled, some pages have to be freed up to accommodate the new data and avoid performance degradation. Various cache management algorithms have been implemented in intelligent storage systems. The most commonly used are least recently used, that is LRU. This you have already studied in operating system also. An algorithm that continuously monitors data access in cache and identifies the cache pages that have not been accessed for a long time. So LRU either frees up these pages or marks them for reuse. This algorithm is based on the assumption that that has not been accessed for a while will not be requested by the host. The next algorithm we have is most recently used, that is MRU. This algorithm is exactly opposite of the LRU, where the pages that have been accessed most recently are freed up or marked for reuse. This algorithm is based on the assumption that recently accessed data may not be required for a while. As cache builds, the storage system must take action to flush the dirty pages. Dirty pages to manage the space availability. Flushing is the process that commits data from the cache to the disk. So, on the basis of the I/O access rate and the pattern, high and low levels called watermarks are set in cache to manage this flushing process. High watermark, that is HWM, is the cache utilization level at which the storage system starts high speed flushing of the cache data. The next one is low watermark, that is LWM, is the point at which the storage system stops flushing the data into the disk. The cache utilization level, as shown in the figure, you can see it in the figure, it drives through mode of flushing that is to be used. There are basically three types of flushing. First one is the idle flushing. It occurs continuously at a modest rate when the cache utilization levels is between high and low watermark. It is when the level is in between, idle flushing will be used. Next is high watermark flushing. It is activated when the cache utilization hits the high watermark. The storage system indicates some additional resources for flushing. This type of flushing has some impact on the I/O processing. Next one is forced flushing. It occurs in the event of a large I/O burst when cache reaches 100% of its capacity, which significantly affects the I/O response time. In forced flushing, system flushes the cache on priority by allocating more number of resources. Next, we shall see the protection of the cache data. This cache data protection. Cache is volatile memory, so a power failure or any kind of cache failure will cause loss of data that is not yet committed to the disk. So this risk of losing uncommitted data held in cache can be mitigated using cache mirroring and cache vaulting. Let us understand these two techniques. First is cache mirroring. Each write to cache is held in two different memory locations on two independent memory cards. So if a cache failure occurs, the write data will still be safe in the mirrored location and can be committed to the disk. So reads are staged from the disk to the cache. Therefore, if a cache failure occurs, the data still can be accessed from the disk. Okay. So because only the writes are mirrored, this method results in the better utilization of the available cache. So next is cache vaulting. The risk of data loss due to power failure can be addressed in various ways. That is using the powering the memory with a battery until the AC power is restored, or using a battery power to write the cache content into the disk. So if an extended power failure occurs, using batteries is not a viable option. So this is because in intelligent storage systems, large amount of data might need to be committed onto numerous disks, and batteries might not provide power for sufficient time to write each piece of data to its intended disk. So therefore, storage vendors use a set of physical disk to dump the contents of the cache during the power failure. Okay, so these are different types of physical disk that is used to dump the contents of the cache in case of a power failure. This is called a cache vaulting, and the disks are called as vault drives. So these types of disks are called as vault drives. So when a power is restored, the data from these disks is written back to the write cache and then returned to the intended hard disks. So this is about the cache. The next component is backend. The backend provides an interface between the cache and the physical disk. It consists of two components, same like front end. One is the backend ports and the other one is backend controller. So the backend controls the data transfer between the cache and the physical disk. From cache, data is sent to the backend and then it is routed to the destination disk. Physical disks are connected to ports on the backend. The backend controller communicates with the disk when performing reads and writes, and it also provides additional but limited temporary data storage. The algorithms implemented on backend controllers provide error detection and correction methods along with the RAID functionalities. So for high data protection and high availability, storage systems are configured with a dual controller with multiple ports. Such configurations provide an alternative path to physical disk if a controller or port failure occurs. This reliability is further enhanced if the disks are also dual ported. In that case, each disk port can connect to a separate controller. Multiple controllers also facilitate load balancing. So this is about the backend. The last component is the physical disk. Physical disks are connected to the backend storage controller and provides persistent data storage. Modern intelligent systems provide support to a variety of disk drives with different speeds and types such as FC, SATA, SAS, and flash drives. They also support the use of a mix of flash, FC, or SATA within the same array. So this is about the components of intelligent storage systems. Thank you for watching.